Hello, I'm Hat, and welcome to All Hat, No Cattle. Before we get started with today's anecdote, I want to thank everyone who tuned in to last week's offering. It is quickly climbing up towards 1,000 views, which is by far and away the greatest amount of views I've gotten on any of the anecdotes so far. Again, thank you very much. That means a lot to me. On to this week's episode. I'm going back to my college days, specifically my sophomore year when I first lived off campus. I had my own room, my own phone, and my own long distance romance. As you can well imagine, the you hang up, no, you hang up phase lasted for quite a while. Yeah, it was pathetic. So, without further ado, today's title is Just What Can a Well-Trained Poodle Do? With that said, let's get to it. Let me set the scene. It's midway through my first semester, sophomore year at my university. I had met a girl while I had taken some time off getting surgery, and we started dating while I was still home. When I left for college, we stayed in touch. Letters weren't really her thing. She was more of a phone call girl. Fine. I had a phone. Unfortunately, she lived several hours away from where I was at, so long distance charges applied to each call. Now, this is back in the day when there was no such thing as unlimited long distance calling. You paid by the minute, and you could pay a pretty hefty price depending on how far away the call went. And I'm afraid these calls went on and on and on. We sometimes would literally wait for the other person to fall asleep on the phone before hanging up. So, yeah, this made for some marathon calls. Well, big deal, right? It's only money. Except when that first bill came. The phone charges were so high, I couldn't pay it. I was putting myself through school. I was working anywhere from 2 to 3 jobs, but I didn't have that kind of money. I mean, this bill was in the hundreds, and we're talking in the 1980s here. So I did the only thing I could do. I canceled my phone service. I attempted to pay off the remaining charges as best I could in order to avoid a hit on my, at that time, nascent credit score. But my mom was very worried. She couldn't get a hold of me when she needed to, and she did not like the idea of my not having a way to reach out in case of emergency. Again, this is way back in the day. No cell phones, just landlines. And those really cool cast iron phones, the kind that you could pick up and brain a guy with, whang! Really good heavy stuff. Can't buy things like that anymore. Try knocking a guy out with a Samsung. Just picture that in your mind and you'll laugh too. So anyway, come to find out, I get my phone service reinstated. Mom came up with the money and I'm back in business. There is the caveat that no more marathon sessions with Jenny, and I took that to heart. So a few weeks after this event, I go home for a weekend. I walk in the door, put my dirty laundry in the laundry room, and sit down in the front room with Mom and Dad. Now, we always had dogs, and I was petting Buffy and Coco, but there was no Mitzi. Mitzi was my mom's prized AKC registered poodle. We had bred Mitzi several times and made a nice bit of money off of it, and she was a beloved pet, my mom's favorite out of a lot of favorites. So we sat and talked for a while, and I said, Mom, where's Mitzi? My mom got this very pained look on her face, and she abruptly stood up and walked out of the room, putting her face in her hands. I looked at Dad, and he looked at me with a pretty steely eye. And I didn't want to ask the question, but I had to. So I manned up and said, Dad, where's Mitzi? Dad, maintains that even gaze, and he says, "Your mom sold her to pay for your phone bill." What? Yeah, she's been like this ever since. I hope you're happy. I had no idea. I certainly would have never wanted her to do that, could never have asked her to do that, but that's what a mom does. She goes out of her way to help, to make sure her son is safe. I get very emotional when I tell this story because it was probably the greatest act of kindness my mom had ever shown me. And even though we had our problems, my mom always did what she could for me to the best of her ability. So I went in the other room and held mom, cried with her, and we got over it. We got past it. I never created a bill like that again, and it was never brought up again. I don't even think my wife knows this story. And there you have it. A life lesson in responsibilities is how I look at this one. Ironically, that girl and I broke up a year later. She turned out to be nothing but a gold digger, which is funny because I had zero gold, but there were things I could do for her that once I had completed, she saw she had no more use for me. In fact, I've dated 2 Jennies in my life, and she is forever known as Jenny Bitch. I've got a couple other stories about her. Not sure if I'll bring them to light or not. That'll be up to my sister. At any rate, thank you for stopping by today. I always appreciate your attention to these videos. Until I see you again, be well, and as always, thank you for your attention.